What's at stake is the presidency of the United States. With the Electoral College system, we are considered a swing state. We suspect that just like last time in 2020, that Donald Trump will lose the popular vote in the United States. So it's up to swing states like North Carolina to come through and vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz as our next president and vice president, so that the people who voted for Kamala Harris across the country.
So perhaps you could tell me what's at stake in North Carolina.
There is so much at stake here. We are a swing state. We were the closest swing state to not go for Joe Biden in 2020. So it's a very competitive state, and there is a lot going on. We are expecting a visit from Kamala Harris this evening. There will be a big rally, and Donald Trump is going to be in our area as well. He's going to be in Gastonia, which is a town about an hour west of us. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of activity. We're seeing a lot of television ads, getting a lot of attention. And what's at stake is the presidency of the United States. With the Electoral College system, we are considered a swing state. We suspect that just like last time in 2020, that Donald Trump will lose the popular vote in the United States. So it's up to swing states like North Carolina to come through and vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz as our next president and vice president, so that the people who voted for Kamala Harris across the country will be represented. So that's what we're doing. We're working to get the vote out here in Charlotte in particular, where we have more Democrats than in any city or county in the state. And we're really busy trying to get people out to vote.
Can you vote early in North Carolina? And what's that been like as a strategy for you in terms of getting people to the polls early?
Yes, we do have early voting for about 2.5 weeks before Election Day, which of course is Tuesday. And in North Carolina, Democrats fought for the right to be able to register and vote on the same day during early voting. So today is the last day of early voting when we can do that. I spent a good bit of time this past week at the college campus that's nearby here, and we were taking students to the polls. And the purpose of that is because they can register and vote with proper ID. We can get them to the polls, they can register for the first time and vote. And we were very fortunate. We've taken over 100 students to the polls to vote, and I'm excited about that for a lot of first-time voters. And I've been telling the young students that it's even more important for them to vote than older folks, because they are going to need to live with the consequences of this election. And there's no question this is a very consequential election. It's going to determine the direction of our country. And quite honestly, it's going to affect worldwide politics, and we realize that. So we're working very hard. We are looking at the last day of early voting, which is today, Saturday, and we hope for a really big day.
How much of it is about issues that are germane to North Carolina, and how much of it is about the wider countrywide issues?
There is a lot of both, because in addition to having the presidential race this year, we also are electing a new governor. We have a wonderful gubernatorial candidate named Josh Stein, who has served as our attorney general. And he seems to be running a really good race. The Republican candidate for governor is terrible. He's made some outrageous comments. He's said that there are some people who need killing. He's also supported the return of slavery, believe it or not. So we have some really important local races and statewide races. But of course, the presidential race is on everyone's mind. And as you probably know, and your listeners know, we recently had a devastating hurricane to come through the western part of our state. So national issues become enmeshed with local issues. And so because we have our federal emergency management agency out in the mountains with the hurricane victims, there's been a lot of nationalization of it's a local issue, but it's also a national issue, which is the devastating effect of the hurricane and the nation's response to that. For example, there's a lot of disinformation that's coming from the Trump campaign about FEMA's, Federal Emergency Management's response to that, saying that victims are only going to get $750. It's simply not true. They get $750 immediately to take care of expenses, but they can then apply for additional assistance, which they have. But that's just one example of some of the disinformation. There's also disinformation out there on the internet about the government hiding information about the number of deaths, et cetera. And
And I'm
people
sure
from
that
both sides have come out to get the truth out.
and I'm sure that has informed the urban versus rural split
Yes.
in terms of how the voting is going here. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. North Carolina has several large cities, several blue dots in a big red state, and Charlotte being the biggest one. There is a divide. Our cities tend to vote Democratic. We know that the votes are here in Mecklenburg County, in Charlotte. That is why we're seeing so many visits from Kamala Harris, from Tim Walz, and other Democrats and other celebrities. So, in the rural areas, which most of the state is a rural area, those areas tend to be more Republican. Um, they're considered more conservative. A lot of the issues in the rural areas that drive people to the Republican Party um, would be something like gun control. There are there's a lot of misinformation oftentimes that is played up in our rural communities. So there are two different cultures, but the urban divide here is very real, and the political divide between the cities and the rural areas is real, and that's the main reason that we are seeing so much activity here.
Jane, thank you very much. That's
Sure.
really great. Really appreciate that.